Shalom, shalom. All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. All right, and today's lesson, all right, we're going to be dealing with the world is actually ending, okay? And, you know, I was sitting here meditating, and I was thinking back to maybe a couple of months ago as to how, and really last year and a couple of months following it, as to how, you know, we knew the things that were coming, but we were still moving in this world in a certain way. But now, as you're starting to see this this agenda being pushed on a high level, and you're starting to see that this isn't it's not looking like a test run anymore. All right, it's looking like the real deal, because the way they're starting to shut everybody down. All right, you got even NBA players, you know, they're showing you that this agenda, we're serious about pushing it this time, so much so that we'll even jeopardize bread and circus for this. Okay, now you see platforms like YouTube and these alternative these social media platforms, and now their censoring is getting out of hand. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to set that vibration that nobody is above the narrative. Pretty much nobody is above the narrative. So they'll go as far as to, if they can ban they could ban the president, okay, or if they can ban or take off Russia Today's YouTube website, then who can they not take off? You know, and now they're explicitly coming out and vocalizing their new policies, which is exactly as we were warning people about all these years ago. Now, what you're seeing as all these things are coming into play is the setting up of this great downfall. Now, the way it's going to look, obviously, is going to start with the world transitioning into what these elites know as, or term, the fourth industrial revolution, okay, the Great Reset. But what they don't understand is, in their process of trying to achieve this new world order and this Great Reset, there's going to be a lot of unexpected discrepancies, which is going to cause fractures and collapse in their plans. And ultimately, it's going to end with their destruction, which has been prophesied in the scriptures, in the Bible. Okay, so we're going to go in here and get a few precepts just to show this is why prophecy is, you know, one of the most important topics, if not the most important, because that is how we determine where we are in prophecy and what's to come next. Because understand that each day that goes by, we're getting deeper and deeper into prophecy. All right, so you need to be able to, as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, you need to be able to measure the times diligently so you can tell what's going to happen next based on what's happening now. Now, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 17. And it says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men." So what is an example of the kingdom of men? Well, you had various empires that came up into power that were set up ultimately by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, that goes all the way back to the various Egyptian rulerships, you know, to all the other empires that ruled before this empire that we're living in right now. But the way that they all came into power was by the Most High setting it up. Even wicked individuals, right? Even people like Alexander, they call him Alexander the Great, but he was really a Greek, so we call him Alexander the Greek. Even him coming into power, it wasn't of his own might. The Lord gave him the spirit to be able to conquer such a vast land of territory in such a short amount of time and be successful at it, because the Most High was setting up the Greeks to come into power. All right. So it says here, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. So whoever the Most High has appointed to come into power, those are the ones that are going to rule. And it says here, and setteth up over it the basest of men. So now who are the basest of men? The basest of men are Esau, Edom. Okay, they are the basis of men. And so let's go to the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom, okay, which are the so-called Caucasians today. We say so-called because just because you look like a Caucasian does not mean that you go back to an Edomite. Okay, you have Israelites and other nations that have light skin that look like Caucasians but are not Edomites. So we say so-called because that's what the general look of a modern day Edomite is. Okay, so this is Obadiah chapter 1 verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Verse 2, behold, I have made thee, speaking to Edom, small among the heathen. And when you look up the word small, it means insignificant. Okay, so the Lord has made them insignificant among the heathen, which in turn makes them the basest, the lowest form, all right, of men. It says, thou art greatly despised. Now, this also goes back to the curse that the Lord put on the nation, all right, of Esau, which back then during the garden, in the time of the book of Exodus, they weren't known as Edomites, but the sons of God weren't known as, like, they weren't called by the label or the name Israelites, but that doesn't mean that the spirit of the Israelites didn't exist back then. They did. Same with the spirit of the Edomites. Okay, so this is Genesis chapter 3 verse 14. And now everybody was basically given their punishment for disobedience. And the curse that came upon the serpent, which the serpent represented the nation of Esau. All right, because that same spirit, and the serpent wasn't an actual snake, the serpent was an individual. All right, and that every individual comes from a stock. So that individual and all the other individuals from that same stock came back in the reincarnation as Edomites. Now it says here, verse 14, and the Lord power said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And this isn't literal, but this represents them coming down into a low estate. All right, aka why they're known as the basest of men. Okay, now remember, it's dealing with the serpent. And you might say, well, it says here the serpent. How do you know that the serpent are the Edomites? Because you said they're the Edomites. Well, let's go to the book of Revelation, and let's start off in the 20th chapter. Okay, because there's some key verses in here that allow you to discern who the serpent is, all right, or who the serpent was in the garden. Now, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 1. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. Now, the bottomless pit is Europe, and the key represents control, okay, over the events that would take place in that region. And this angel was Yahushai. Now, it says he had a great chain in his hand, which it wasn't a literal chain, but that chain represents being able to bind somebody. Like, I'll give you an example. The reason the prophecy in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, in the 68th verse, concerning us going into slavery and no man redeeming us, the reason it was able to come to pass the way it was because we were bound. And that's why we were subject under the Edomites and under the various other nations that we were subject under. Because physically we are a stronger people than them. So if you sit back and think about it, how could they have put us in captivity? Lest we were bound by the Lord. All right, and it was a spiritual seal. So that same seal is what the Lord had, which here is represented as a chain. And verse 2 says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent. Now, pay attention to the key words. It describes, it says the dragon, comma, that old serpent. These are all words used to describe the same thing or the same person. Now, the old serpent, it says an old serpent. Why an old serpent? Because this serpent goes back thousands of years back to the garden. Okay? So that's that same old serpent that was in the garden. Now is known as a dragon, that old serpent, which is what? Which is the devil. Now, the word devil means deceiver, and pursuant to the account in the book of Genesis, you can understand why they're known as deceivers, because they deceived us. It says, and Satan, which means adversary, and bound him 1,000 years. So now, this devil, dragon, old serpent, and Satan, just because you see the word Satan there, does not mean this is referring to the spiritual demon Satan. Because in this verse, it's not talking about the actual spiritual demon Satan. It's referring on to the individuals who were back in the garden, known as the serpent, today are known as Edomites, or the so-called Caucasian race. This is them. And the time when this happened was during what they call the Dark Ages, when you had the Byzantine Empire, all right, which was ruled by Israelites, okay, dark-skinned Israelites. And that's why in school, they don't really teach you too much in depth on it, because there's actual history on that time period. But they breeze over it and skip straight to the Renaissance as if the Dark Ages was just nothing happening. Okay? The reason they say that is because for them, they were bound. All right? Verse 3, it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. Now, they were up over there in Europe when Jake started coming up into power. We had them under us. That's how they were shut up and sealed, that they should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And right up around that time of the Renaissance era, okay, the early, you could say 14, 15, 1600s, all right, 13, 14, 15, so on and so forth, they started coming up into power, all right. That fulfilled 1,000 years. It says, and after that, he must be loosed a little season. So when he was loosed from the seal, that's how he was able to get up into power, okay, and start to take over the things that we had. All right. Now, when you go into the history and you are following along, you find out, okay, well, who came into power after the Byzantine Empire? What people? They'll say, the Spanish, the Europeans, right? The Spanish, the British, and so on and so forth. But what nationality of people were they? They were Edomites. Okay. Now we're gonna jump down to the 7th verse in Revelation, the 20th chapter. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, meaning when the time is up, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and he shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 quarters of the earth, which is east, north, west, and south. Then it says, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And now that starts to go into another point, but I'm only going to deal with the first part because that's the point I'm using for this lesson. All right, so after that period was up, they came up into power and they went to deceive the nations. And that's when you had the whitewashing. Okay, that's why today a lot of people don't know about that history, because not only was a false history pushed, but the old history, they did their best to try and hide. That's why you have something like this, the Apocrypha, all right, which was books taken out of the original scrolls of the Bible, and they tried to hide it. And I believe Apocrypha means hidden away or so. Okay, they try to hide it. All right. Nevertheless, notice it refers to these devils as the dragon, okay, and also as the old serpent. Now, we're going to go from there to the book of Revelation. We're going to go up a couple of verses to the book of Revelation, chapter 12, and start at verse 7, which is going into a prophecy that hasn't happened yet, but is well on its way to happening. And it says here, and there was war in heaven. Okay, now the heaven here does not mean the spirit world. The heaven here is talking about our atmosphere. Okay, the Shemayim. So there was war in heaven. That's why you have a space force, because the true reason and the true purpose of the space force is to fight against the Lord and the angels when they come back. And that's that war that is mentioning of in heaven. And it says Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. There goes the dragon again. So the dragon, which is the old serpent, was in the garden. That same dragon got bound for 1,000 years and then came up into power during the Renaissance era. And that dragon has been deceiving everybody up until the time of when the Lord returns. So who are the ones who are going to be in power at the time of the Lord's return? Well, that would be the same people that are in power right now. And who are in power right now? Esau, Edom. Okay? The so-called white man. All right? The so-called Caucasians. They are the ones in power right now. So they are the dragon. And they're the ones that are going to fight against the Lord and the angels when they come down. And what's going to cause the Lord and the angels to come down? First and foremost, prophecy. But now let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 1. Okay? And it's which we are approaching right now. So right now, we're about to enter into this time. And at this time is when you're going to have those great famines and pestilence and chaos and the martial law and the civil wars and the race wars and the race riots and all hell breaking loose in the streets, okay? And the hour of temptation. And after all of that is when the Lord is going to return, okay? Now, Daniel 12:1 says, and at that time, shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. So this time is during the time of Jacob's trouble, but really at the end, all right, of Jacob's trouble. Because when Michael comes, Yahushua is going to be here, because he's going to be leading that force. And pursuant to Matthew 24, it says, immediately after the days of that of the tribulation shall the Lord appear. And when he comes, he's going to come with Michael and the rest of the angels. So it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. Who are the children of thy people? He was talking to Daniel. So who would be the children of Daniel's people? The children of Israel, because Daniel was an Israelite. And it says here, and there shall be a time of trouble, Jacob's trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Another word for Jacob's trouble is the end of Esau's rulership, because it's going to be right at the last bit of Esau's rulership, which is right now. That's when we're going to go through that trouble. And that's what these devils are ushering in, and they're bringing it on with their NWO, with their mandates, with all these, you can't speak the truth, you can't say this because they're going to censor you, or they're going to block you, you know, or they're going to fine you, you know, or they're going to start rounding you up. Soon they're going to start telling people to snitch. You know, if you know anybody that's promoting this kind of information or refusing to do this, you know, call this number, blah, 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 you know, public health, blah, 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 you know. And it says here, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, which are the Israelites, starting with the elect. Every one that shall be found written in the book, which is what? The Lamb's book of life. All right, those are the ones that are going to be delivered. So that time when Michael is going to stand up, what is he going to stand up to do? Well, we're reading of that in Revelation 12:7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Who's the dragon? Esau, Edom. And his angels. So that's going to be, how are they going to fight against the angels? They're going to fight using their technology, using their planes, their fighter jets, whatever laser technology, satellites they have, because the war is going to be in heaven. So they're going to be using a lot of aerial weaponry and vehicles. But that's going to have nothing on the chariots and the angels of the Lord. And according to the prophecy, when the war happens, it says, verse 8, and prevailed not. So these devils are going to fight, but they're going to lose. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Meaning, literally in the heavens, they're going to be, you know, knocked out of the heavens, but they're also going to fall out of their rulership. Because the heaven can also represent a state of rulership. Okay, now it says, and the great dragon was cast out, which is Esau, that old serpent. Notice how this is used to describe him also in Revelation, the 20th chapter. And this is also used to talk about those that were the serpent that was in the garden. Okay? So who's going to be in power when the Lord returns to fight against them with the angels? Esau, Edom. And in Revelation 12 and 7, it refers to him as the devil, the dragon, the old serpent, Satan. So we know that we can identify those that are going to be in power at the return of the Lord, which is in our time, with, it says here, old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. Now, who has deceived the whole world? Well, take a look at Jesus Christ. Look at him. And you'll find out whatever complexion or whatever nation of people he looks like he's from, that'll be your answer as to who's deceived the whole world. Because he doesn't look like a Moabite. He doesn't look like a so-called Chinese person or a so-called East Indian. All right. He looks like an Edomite, because the Edomites are the ones who went and whitewashed and painted over the dark images and try to put their images. Okay. Because, and not only that, but they deceived the world in so much more ways that now when we come to tell them the truth, they can't wake up out of it. All right. Nevertheless, now that we've identified the devil, okay, let's go into the downfall of the devil. Because the downfall of the devil is going to be the end of this world, aka the end of this age. All right. And it's going to go down very chaotically, very violently. That's why it's going to be likened to a time like never before. All right. Now, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, verse 1. And it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Now, you notice it mentions or refers here to them as the virgin daughter of Babylon. And a virgin is a woman that, depending on the word that's there, all right, in the Hebrew, which I believe it Bathwala would mean a woman that has never had sex before, and Ayalam or Ayalama means a young woman of marriageable age. Okay, now it says the virgin daughter of Babylon because this place hasn't really been touched on that level before. And it is likened unto the daughter of Babylon, which shows you this is not talking about ancient Babylon. It says, sit on the ground, there is no throne, which means come down to a lower state. And that's what, well, that's what you see happening already. When they had the January 6th situation that happened over there, the world was looking at America as a laughing stock. They were like, what? Over there? You know? Now they put this creepy Sleepy Joe up in there and they just destroyed and tarnished any hopes America had. He came back talking about we're going to build back better. He's destroying everything. You know? He botched the whole Afghanistan, the whole migrant situation with the Haitians, the whole C-19, everything. This dude is going down as the worst president in history. All right? And he's taking the reputation of America with him. So people are not looking at America with fear. They're looking at him like, what the hell is going on over there? All right? Because the image of the leader shows the image of the nation. So if your leader looks like that guy or this guy over here, and this is what he's doing, people going to look at you like, what the hell is going on? All right? Salakia, give me 1 second. Let me turn on my lights. It's getting a little dark in here. All right? Salakia about that. Right, so going back, so looking at this devil, the whole world is looking at this place like, damn, what the hell happened to this place? All right, but as it says here, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. Now the Chaldeans, going back, you know, to ancient Babylon, were known as the upper class of the Babylonians, right? They were the astrologers, the soothsayers, the higher class, like the elite, all right? It says, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers, meaning to expose them. And that's what's happening. As this place gets more and more exposed, the worse and worse their status and their look is. Because now the secrets, the secret councils and the sorceries that they used to work on people, which used to work at first because people were blinded, it's not working anymore. because now people are waking up. As the Lord said, he would destroy the covering cast over the people. All right, now this is the book of Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse, I'm going to start at verse, let's see, verse 7. It says, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let. And who is he that letteth? The Most High. Because it is by his will that all of this is taking place." Okay, so only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And who is the he that's going to be taken out of the way? Esau, Edom. All right, and how is he going to be taken out of the way? By thermonuclear destruction and lasers from the chariots of the angels, or the chariots of God, which are going to be being controlled by the angels and the Lord himself. Now it says, "And then shall that wicked be revealed." So how, pursuant to Isaiah 47, are their legs being made bare and them being uncovered? Well, if you were to uncover or make bare, you would lift up whatever garment they had on. So we are metaphorically lifting up the garments of America, and the world is starting to see everything. Okay? So going back to 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 8. "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth." And the spirit of his mouth begins with who? The prophets of the Lord. Okay? How do we know that? Matthew chapter 10, verse 20. It says, "For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you." So the Spirit of the Father which speaketh in us, or the Spirit of the Lord's mouth, are the prophets. It says, "And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." Because upon the Lord's return, he's going to come with the destruction. He's going to come with healing in his wings for the elect, but he's going to come with the destruction for the rest of the world. Okay? And shalom to all you tuning in. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Barakatham. Verse 9, it says, "Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and what? And lying wonders." So you know it's referring to the same person because it describes him the same way. He was described as being let loose, the devil, to go and deceive the nations. And now he's being described as what? Coming after the working of Satan, the adversary, with all power and signs and lying wonders. All right. So now let's go back to the book of Isaiah 47, verse 3. "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance." Now you notice when we read in 2 Thessalonians, it started off with the man of sin being revealed, right, by the Spirit of the Lord's mouth. Then him being destroyed by the Lord's coming. And in verse 3 here in Isaiah, it says what? "Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen." So they're going to be revealed. Then it says, I will take vengeance and I will not meet thee as a man." So it's going to happen in that order. They're going to be revealed, which they are right now, because of the Spirit of the Lord's mouth. All right. And then after that comes the destruction, because a part of them being revealed is their sentencing. All right. Their sentencing as to what they've done, who they are, and how they're going to pay for it. And when the Lord comes, he's going to bring that judgment upon them. Okay. And that's why he says, "I will not meet thee as a man," because when Yahushua comes back this time, he's coming as an angelic force. Okay. He's coming as a superman, not as a regular mortal man. Verse 4, "As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel." And who is that? That's Yahushua, pursuant to Isaiah 63, verse 4. And it says, "For the day of vengeance is in mine heart." And this is the Lord speaking. "And the year of my redeemed is come." So who is he coming to redeem? He's coming to redeem his brethren, who are the Israelites, starting with the elect. Back in Isaiah 47, verse 4. "As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, For thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdoms. Now, when you go into that word lady, all right, in the online etymology, it says a woman of superior position in society, okay, or the mistress, okay. And so it says the lady of kingdoms. You're no more going to be called the lady of kingdoms, because at one point this place was looked at as superior. It was looked at as a superpower. It was looked at as the land where everybody wanted to come, okay, the top, the superior. But now it's being looked at as a wasteland. And there are various scriptures that say or talk about how people are going to start fleeing from this land and going back to their land, because it's no more looked at as the land of opportunity. Verse 6, I was wroth with my people, I have polluted mine inheritance. And who are the Lord's people and his inheritance? The Israelites. The scriptures tell you he is the former of all things. Jacob is the lot or the portion of his inheritance, roughly paraphrasing. All right. Now it says here, I was wroth with my people, I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. And that's why this devil is ruling over us, because the Lord set him up over us. Okay, he gave us into the hand of Esau Edom, of this devil. It says, thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient thou hast heavily laid thy yoke. And the ancient represents the elderly, and even them, okay, the Esau heavily laid his yoke. There's a scripture that talks about they shall not regard the old nor the poor. Okay, the Lord said, I will bring a nation against thee as swift as the eagle flieth. Verse 7, and thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever. See, so in their mind, that's where you get that American pride. In their mind, they figured they're still going to be in this position. You got Trump came in talking about make America great again. You have Biden coming in talking about we're back, build back better. Because in their mind, they still believe that they're going to be a lady forever. They believe that they're going to keep their status and their rank in society continually. But just like all the other societies and kingdoms, no matter how great they were, just like they fell, this place is also going to fall. Okay. Now let's go real quick to the book of Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. It says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names, and that's this devil. That's why you have George Washington Bridge, Lincoln Tunnel. Okay, and I mean there's so many other more places that they've named after themselves. Okay, but they believe that that's going to continue forever. So in their mind, what's happening now is a renovation. You know, they're renovating, and their vision of the NWO is what they want to come to pass through this renovation. That's what this whole demic, the C-19 demic, is about. Is a renovation of the world, and so they can mold it in their image. And in the renovation, what do you have? You throw out and break down the old things, and the things that won't make it into the new version, you eliminate them. So that's what they want to do. They want to eliminate us and the others that are going to be a problem for their new house. But what they don't understand is the Lord is with you to break down, but you're not going to build up. All right. So continuing in Isaiah 47, verse 7, it says, and thou hast said, or thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart. Meaning they didn't think about these things. Neither didst remember the latter end of it. So because they thought that they were always going to be in power, they didn't consider what would happen for them putting us in slavery and them doing the manner of wickedness that they've been doing for generations, because they thought that they're always going to be in that power. Verse 8, therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, and says in thine heart. Now, if you want to come to the, what do they say? The land of the free. You know, you have freedom of religion, you have freedom of speech, you have freedom to do whatever the hell you want to do. Okay, you have freedom to be a alphabet gang. You have freedom to turn from one to another. You freedom to transform. Okay, This land teaches you to indulge in your pleasures. Yeah, that's right. Like the brother put, free Edom. Yeah, you know, they teach you to overindulge in pleasures and desires, and to act upon impulse, and to feed the flesh, and to lack discipline, because that's what this land is specializes in, and that's why these people have no self-control. That's why all they do is act upon impulse. All right, and that's why this land is the way it is, because they have waxed what's the word? They have been found wanting. Okay, there's a certain word which means undisciplined, and it just escaped my mind at the moment. Okay, now continuing on, it says here, Isaiah 47:8. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am and none else. And that's that pride. And that's why the scriptures say the pride of thine heart, meaning the pride that's in your head, has deceived you. I shall not sit as a widow. And a widow is a woman that whose husband is dead. All right. And widows were often in a position of difficulty and in a low position, because if a widow was older, right, and her husband was dead, and she didn't have family that would take her in, she would pretty much be on her own. You know, the water, brother, wonton, the water. She would pretty much be on her own, okay? And so she would be in that low position. That's why, unless somebody, married her again, but that's why the scriptures talk about there's certain laws for the poor, and you will hear the widow get lumped in with the poor, because they will both be in a position of difficulty. So in their mind, as it says here, I shall not sit as a widow. I'm never going to be in a difficult position. Neither shall I know the loss of children. Meaning, and the loss of children brings about what? Mourning, heartache, suffering, trouble. So a child is what you bring forth. And they believe that everything they have, they're going to keep, and they're not going to lose any of it. But once again, they've been deceived. Verse 9, but these two things shall come upon thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, meaning the calamities that are going to hit this place are going to be that's why the scriptures say it's going to be a time like never before, because never before on the earth has destruction in its perfection hit a place before. But in this time, destruction is going to hit in its perfection. Okay, it says, for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's very easy to get addicted to things here in America. All right, and I'm not talking about drugs alone. I'm talking about just things in general. If you start going to sleep a certain way, maybe you put your hand on your head or under your head or under your pillow, and you do it once or twice and 3 times, you'll realize that in a matter of just a couple of times you've done it, you every time you go to sleep, you find yourself doing that, and you can't not do it. Now you can't sleep if you don't do it. You may do one thing. You may find a new food. You're like, yo, I tried this. Yo, it's good. You eat it once, you eat it twice, boom, a new routine. You say one time, yo, I didn't get enough sleep. Let me get some coffee. And then you get coffee in the morning on your way to work. You're not a coffee drinker, but you get coffee in the morning on your way to work. And then the next day you slept late again. So you know what? Let me just get some coffee again. Then the next day, and next thing you know, every morning, even if you're not late, even if you had enough sleep, you're drinking coffee because that's a part of your routine now, and you're addicted to it. Not in a like a uncontrollable way, but in the way where everything is so quick to get stuck to you. Okay, that's a part of the sorceries of this place, because they actually perform seances and witchcraft to do these things, because it promotes either sales or agenda, especially even in music. Okay, they put a lot of demons in the tracks, and you may think, oh yeah, you know what they don't do. No, they actually do. They put demons in the music. So when you see certain individuals walking around, especially I remember a time when they used to have that, what's this dude's name, Chief Keef or whatever his name was. who was, at that time, years ago, it was all heavy. Chief Keef, Fetty Wap, all these different artists. And everywhere you go, people are blasting it. And they're walking around doing some weird ass dances. They got their head swaying their head. They're mumbling. You know what I'm saying? They're jumping around. They're doing all this crazy stuff. And you look at them, like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Now you might have an individual with maybe dreads and he got headphones in, so you don't see the headphones. And you just see this guy jumping around, mumbling, and he do all this extra shit because he's listening to the music and those demons are on him, influencing him. And all you keep hearing are gang banging and drugs and shooting and this and that. And so what do a lot of young people who listen to that and get involved in that, where do they find themselves? They find themselves there thinking it's cool. All right. Amongst many other things. Okay. Even when you head into their medical field. Okay. The pharmacies, which go back to the Greek word pharmakia, which literally means witchcraft, sorceries. Okay. The prescriptions, the drugs, those are all witchcraft and those are all sorceries. But let me be careful what I'm saying before they come after me. Which shows you that what we're saying is true, because why would you come after us if what we're saying is false? Why do you care so much? All of a sudden, you care about false information? All these years that all these things have been, all of a sudden, you care about false information because you're trying to hide something, and it's sensitive. Now it says, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments, verse 10, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. That's why they like to hide. And they think that they're controlling things from the background, but you on a large ass screen and the Lord is looking at you, all right, and everybody's targeting your ass. But in your mind, you believe that you're controlling all of this from the background, the mastermind, right? Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee, meaning it has corrupted them. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. So they believe that they are so high and above everybody and can control everything that nobody's on their level. In their minds, they believe that they are gods, or that they can achieve that level. If they can structure the world in their image, if they can make man in their image, they can be like the Most High. But you can't be like the Most High, because you're the basis of men. You're the devil. All right? And as a matter of fact, you're such a devil that you've deceived yourself. Okay? These devils are such devils, they've actually deceived themselves into thinking that they're going to succeed. This is Bernard Hodge. Greek pharmakia could mean magic, sorcery, witchcraft, enchantments, drugs, or medication. The administering or usage of drugs, magic, sorcery, witchcraft, often found in connection with, and I believe there's another part with that, but that's the main point right there. Okay? Idolatry, the water. So that the pharmacy goes back to that word right there that we just read the definition of. So ask yourself, wait, of all the names, why would you choose pharmacy? What's with the two snakes on the rod? Caduceus? What's that about? Why is that symbol? Why do ambulances make so much noise and they're constantly flashing red and blue? You think all this is by coincidence? No, it's not. All right. Verse 11. Isaiah 47 verse 11. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. Because they believe that they have everything under control. They believe that they're controlling it. So when the evil comes suddenly upon them and they lose control, they're not going to know from when. They're not going to understand what the hell is going on, because things were supposed to go according to plan. It says, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. And ultimately, what's going to happen? This place is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction. Okay? By pure fire. Verse 12. Stand now. So now the Lord is saying, you're doing all this wickedness. You're thinking that everything is going to be all sweet. So you know what? Verse 12. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries. Okay? Wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail, which is sort of like mockery. Okay? Stand out. Use your sorceries. You know, you might like what Elijah did to the prophets, the prophets of Baal. You know, no, you gotta scream a little louder. He's probably in the store, so he's knocked out. He's doing something. You know, so stand with your sorceries. Come on, work it up. You know, you just might be able to make it. You just might be able to get your goal. And the Lord really is playing a trick on Esau, because that's why he's waiting until he's about to fill his belly before he brings it down upon him. Because he got him in a trick bag. And he knows, the Lord knows where to hit this devil, where it's going to hurt. All right? Because the Lord could bring him down today like that, but he has a plan set up. He wants this devil to get to a certain point and be fully deceived, thinking he got it on lock. And right then and there, the Lord is going to bring him down. So the world is actually ending, and it's going to begin with these devils' last phase into the New World Order. Their mindset is, we need to collapse society to bring about our new society. And that collapse is what we are reading about and what we are witnessing right now. And that collapse is going to be so great that they're not going to be able to come back from it. Because that collapse is gonna be like slipping down a slippery slope, and there's no ledges to or handholds to stop yourself from falling. So they may have wanted to fall only a few feet, but now they find themselves falling down, miles, and they can't get back up. And that's what's gonna happen once the little structures that are holding this place, once the Lord breaks it down, pursuant to Revelation the 7th chapter, and he has those angels let loose, all hell is going to break loose. And it's not going to come back up until Yahushua returns. Okay? Verse 13, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. And these devils are getting to that point where they keep, having these meetings with these demons and with Satan. And they are wearied in that. That's why they're going to come down with that great wrath. Because all those meetings and all those things, they still haven't reached their New World Order yet. And it may seem like they always got things on lock, but they really don't. When they hear messages like Tekel, which came from that when they were dealing with the whole CERN thing. And why do you think they got so afraid? Why do you think they're trying to make up for lost time? Because they're seeing that, look, in our mind, in our simulations, things were going smoothly. But now they're having to deal with real life, with the elements of life, with the spirit that the Lord can switch the spirit of people in just like that. Now, and it doesn't matter how many simulations you run, you cannot predict what people are going to do to the T. You can get close, but you can't, because the way people move is based on the spirit that's on them. And the Lord controls that. Okay? Now it says, let now the astrologers, right, those that are able to tell information and able to tell the future based on looking at the constellations and the stars and the heavens. It says in the stargazers, which when you look that up, it goes into like left-hand prophets or seers. It says, and monthly prognosticators, which all fall under the same category overall, let them stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. And Esau's going to find out that his priests and his witches and his warlocks on the left-hand side, no matter how many meetings you have with Satan and no matter how many sacrifices you do, they're not going to be able to save you. Verse 14, behold, they shall be as stubble. And what is stubble? The remains after the fire. Okay, so that's what this place is going to be as, because it's going to be burnt by fire. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, because we're talking about pure heat mixed with the indignation of the Lord. There's going to be no escape from that. This isn't a fire that burns a building and you can see the darkness and the certain structures left. This fire is going to be so hot that nothing is going to be left once it's done. Meaning everything is going to be melted back to its base form. Okay? That's why it says in the book of 2 Peter, chapter 3, verse 10. It says, but the day of the Lord shall come, or will come, as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Because everything you see now goes, when you break it down, it goes back to elements that are put together. to create the different forms of matter. Now, when the fire, the fire or the heat on this level melts it, it's gonna break down those elements that have been put together to form the buildings and the cars and all these different things. And so it's gonna melt all of that, and that's how you can see a car just dissolve from a car into nothing, because the elements that make it up are being separated and being broken down. Now it says, the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up, which is dealing with certain parts. And one of those main parts is America, as we're reading here in Isaiah 47 and 14. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before. Yeah, because this fire is going to be so hot. It's not going to be like a small fire that you can come near or warm yourself at. This is a fire that's going to burn anything in its path. Verse 15, thus shall they be unto thee whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants, those that you made deals with, those that you were allied with, those that you had trade deals and so on and so forth with. It says, from thy youth they shall wander every one to his quarter. None shall save thee, because they're all going to flee out of this place. And that's why in Revelation, I believe the 18th chapter, it tells you how these other nations are going to be standing afar off, saying, alas, alas, for that great city, Babylon, for in 1 hour is her judgment come. And her judgment is going to be destruction by thermonuclear fire and the lasers from the chariots. That is the future that's coming to this place. And that's going to start with, I'm sorry, that has already started. Okay? So as things escalate, just know that one thing leads to another. And the second they bring out that grain of rice, it's over. Okay? Because those that take the grain of rice, their judgment is going to be in that fire. All right? So that's the order of prophecy. So as things get worse, just know that this demic that they're setting up is leading to that grain of rice. And there's going to be a lot of chaos on the way, because a lot of people are not with it. We're not the only ones that are actually against this, believe it or not. There's a bunch of people that don't associate with Israelites, that don't claim to be Israelites, that even are of other nations, okay, that are not with this. And they're going to be the ones that are getting violent in the street and going wild. We're not going to be partaking in that. But just know that we're not the only ones that are against this. But Lord willing, we will be the ones that get delivered and get the victory in this war. All right, or in this battle. Okay. So with that, I'm going to end it here. The water for tuning in, the water for the precepts and the definitions, you know, and adding on, you know, in the to the lesson in the spirit. Lord willing, you were edified. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.